10 years ago, almost every conversation about money eventually landed on the same question. Which neighborhood should I buy in? And how do I stretch my income to afford the mortgage? Today, that conversation is quietly shifting toward a completely different question. Should I be putting my money into the stock market instead? This is not just a passing trend or a change in taste. It represents a much deeper shift in how an entire generation thinks about building wealth. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why that shift is happening and what it actually means for your own money. Stay with me, because the reason behind this shift is more interesting than most people realize. For decades, buying a home was treated as the single smartest financial decision a person could make. And honestly, for a long time, it actually was. Entire cities expanded. Populations moved into urban centers looking for opportunity, and land in the right location became more valuable almost automatically as more people needed somewhere to live near where the jobs were. Families who bought property early in a growing city often ended up wealthier, not because their salary doubled, but simply because they happened to own the right piece of land at the right moment in time. Buying a house back then was not just about having a place to sleep. It was a living tool, and a wealth-building tool rolled into one single asset. And for a long stretch of history, that combination was genuinely hard to beat. Here is the part most people never stop to think about. The wealth generated by real estate during that era was not really coming from the house itself. It was coming from population growth and economic expansion flowing into a fixed piece of land. As more people crowded into cities and demand kept climbing, prices climbed right alongside it, almost automatically. This created a strategy that felt simple and almost foolproof. Buy property, wait, and let the growth of the surrounding economy quietly increase your net worth. But here's the problem with any strategy that works this well for this long. Once everyone understands the formula and everyone is trying to use it at the same time, the advantage that made it powerful in the first place starts to weaken. This is exactly why more and more people are turning their attention toward the stock market instead of real estate, and it has very little to do with headlines claiming the market will simply keep going up forever. The real shift is much deeper than that. People are starting to realize that when they invest in a broad market index, they are not just betting on a handful of companies. They are essentially betting on an entire economy's ability to keep innovating, adapting, and reinventing itself over time. That is a fundamentally different kind of bet than owning one fixed piece of land in one specific location. And understanding that difference is the key to understanding this entire shift. When you put money into a broad stock market index, you are not simply buying a static list of companies and hoping they stay successful forever. You are buying a system that is constantly replacing weaker companies with stronger ones without you having to lift a finger. 20 years ago, some of the largest companies in the world looked completely different than they do today. Businesses that once dominated headlines quietly faded, while newer companies nobody was talking about back then eventually rose to take their place at the top. This constant churn is not a flaw in the system. It is actually the entire point, because it means the index itself keeps upgrading in the background, whether you are paying attention or not. Here is the simplest way to understand the real difference between these two approaches to building wealth. A house does not upgrade itself over time. It ages. Roofs wear down, systems need repairs, and the neighborhood around it can change in ways completely outside of your control. A broad market index behaves in the opposite way. It automatically drops the companies that are falling behind and replaces them with the ones actually driving growth forward. In the past, owning real estate let people benefit from the expansion of a growing city. Today, owning a piece of the broader market lets people benefit from the expansion of innovation and productivity itself, which is a very different kind of growth engine entirely. Now, here is something important I want to be completely clear about. This is not a video telling you that buying a home is a mistake, and it is definitely not a video claiming that the stock market will always outperform real estate no matter what. That kind of thinking is exactly the trap that leaves people financially fragile. What this shift actually represents is a move away from relying on a single asset for your entire financial future, and a move toward spreading your money across several different types of assets that each serve a different purpose. A home provides stability and a place to live. Cash provides flexibility when you need it quickly. Certain assets can help protect against economic uncertainty. And a broad market index allows you to participate in ongoing growth and innovation happening across the wider economy. For decades, many families built their entire financial future around one enormous asset, their home, and treated everything else as secondary. The next chapter of wealth building looks completely different. It is less about finding one perfect asset and putting everything into it, and more about intentionally spreading your money so that no single downturn in one area can wipe out everything you have worked so hard to build. This does not mean spreading yourself thin or trying to do everything at once. It means being intentional, understanding what each type of asset is actually doing for you, and making sure your money is not sitting completely exposed to just one outcome in one place. So here is the real question you should be asking yourself, and it has nothing to do with picking a side between houses and the stock market. The real question is whether your money is currently sitting somewhere that can keep creating value as the world continues to change around it, or whether it is parked somewhere that depends entirely on conditions from an era that may already be fading. Wealth has always followed whatever asset represents the future of that specific time period. And right now, that future increasingly includes ownership in companies that keep evolving instead of a single fixed piece of land. You do not need to choose one extreme or the other. You simply need to understand why this shift is happening and make sure your own money is positioned somewhere that can actually grow alongside it, instead of quietly being left behind. Once people grasp this idea, a lot of them swing too hard in the opposite direction, selling off everything they own and pouring all of it into the market overnight because it suddenly feels like the smarter move. That reaction misses the entire point of what diversification actually means. The goal was never to abandon one single asset in favor of another single asset. The goal is to stop depending on any one outcome so completely that a downturn in that one area could derail your entire financial life. Someone who owns a home, keeps a portion of their savings liquid, and steadily invests in a broad market index over time is in a fundamentally stronger position than someone who bet everything on real estate in the past, and it is an equally stronger position than someone who now bets everything on the market instead. Balance is not the boring choice here. Balance is actually the sophisticated one, even though it rarely gets the same attention as an all-or-nothing bet. If you are watching this and wondering where to even begin, start by asking a simple question about every dollar you currently have. What is this specific dollar actually doing for me right now? Is it sitting in a checking account, doing nothing while inflation quietly reduces what it can buy? Is it locked into a single property that depends entirely on one local market staying strong? Is it steadily invested in something that grows alongside the broader economy over long stretches of time? There is no single perfect answer that applies to everyone because your own timeline, your own responsibilities, and your own comfort level all shape what the right mix actually looks like for you specifically. But the one thing that stays true, no matter who you are, is this: wealth in the coming decades is going to favor people who understand where value is actually being created instead of people who are simply repeating a strategy that worked well for an entirely different generation facing entirely different circumstances.